Hello everybody and welcome on today's video. Today is the repotting day for this little yew, and the first thing I'm going to do is remove all the moss, and then we will see what we have under the moss layer and do the rest of the work. So most of the moss is now removed, and as you might remember from a previous video about this tree, there was a fair amount of new roots that grow just under the moss, which of course is very good. But the main problem on this tree, when I remove the moss, you can see it now, is that the roots are not really how they should be. So I have two possibilities now. I can take this tree out of the pot and find a pot that is a little deeper, because I'd like to have this tree at this in the soil. And the other possibility is that I find the big roots and that I can cut some of the big roots off. But of course this is a little risk, because you don't want to get rid of too many roots, because the tree will not grow as well as it should then. So first thing to do is get him out of the pot and see how the roots are. So the tree is out of the pot, and as you can see I have lots of good healthy new roots, but of course they are all at the bottom, and if I want to hide this bad part of the tree, I will have to have new roots more in this spot. So let's clean the root ball and see what we can do. So the tree is now bare rooted, and as you can see here is our problem. There is real big roots lying flat all the way, so it's going to be extremely difficult to get rid of this root, but maybe gradually, and I can nibble a little from the from this part, yeah, and let the little roots here take over. Another thing is that this root, well, this is dead, but that's no surprise, because I ginned the whole part of this tree. So this is deadwood, which will have to be cleaned up, and I will apply some lime sulfur then. So now I'm going to nibble a half centimeter away from this root, and try to get it some to get it some deeper in the pot. Now it's interesting to see that this part is really alive, and this is probably a dead part of the root. You can see the difference in color. So anyway, anything that is dead can be removed, so I'm going to do that now. So I took away about 1 centimeter of the thick roots, which will probably heal and emerge some new roots here, like an air layer. But anyway, I'm going to cut some more away next year. Now I'm going to clean up the dead roots and apply lime sulfur to them. So So lime sulfur is this horrible, stinking product. So I made the tree completely wet, and I'm applying pure lime sulfur on it, but just on the root part here, because I want to get this tree as fast as possible in a pot. And I will do the upper part of the lime sulfur once this is done. Because it's toxic for the roots, you must be very careful. Okay, so that's all for the lime sulfur. I'm gonna clean out my brush now. So the lime sulfur is applied, and I gained a little centimeter. I'm not going to cut back too many roots now, because I think that's, well, not really appropriate. If I put the tree back in its original pot, which I must say is a pot I really like, without using any drainage layer, I'm going to try to fix this to have a look at it. Yep. Well, I think this tree is still quite high in the pot, so I will have to reduce this thick root at least 1 or 2 centimeters, and this is something I can definitely not do now. So here's for plan B then. I'm gonna keep this pot nice and clean for the coming season, and maybe use this one. This is 5 centimeter, and the other one is 3.5, so that's quite a difference. So if I use this pot, the tree is a little deeper in the pot, and that means that new roots can form here, and it will be safer to remove the big root later. I'm just wondering if this root is alive, and then I think it's dead as a dodo. There's no living tissue here. So it might be better to get rid of it. So all the lime sulfur is applied now, and I must hurry now, because I need to get these roots wet. So because I want the roots to emerge from the upper part, I have already a lot of really good roots here, but they will have to take over the tree entirely. So I'm going to just cut away the lower roots a little. And of course do nothing at the upper parts. So that's one. Just soak the tree in a water tank. It's always better to be on the safe side. So because I want some roots at the upper parts now, I want to make little wounds that will act as air layers, of course. So a few things, I like to have the angle of the tree a little more this way, so that this is leaning on one side and the live part is leaning on another side. I'm going to try to have the soil up to this point so that every air layer wound is covered in soil, so new roots can emerge from there. And I don't think I'm going to have lots of room for good drainage, so I'm going to reduce the amount of the thick lava. So let's go. So here's for the thick lava, really a little bit, and some more at this side to be sure that I have the angle that I want. Okay, and now the small lava with the compost, and the tree will be potted up. Well, I must say I don't feel too bad about this new pot. It's quite an old Chinese pot that I bought second hand. And I think we did some important work today on the roots. Just to be able to get the tree in a shallower pot later, without having to put the tree too high in its pot. So the deadwood is cleaned up beneath the soil level, which is something that has to be done, because otherwise it's going to rot. So you can see that the tree can be tilted a little more to this side, and this can be done quite easily by just pressing the soil there. This dead root is now a nice feature. And so is this little one. So I'm just going to continue working the new soil in the pot, and then we go to the next little work that needs to be done. The tree has got its first wash, and while it's dripping, I'm preparing a few pieces of moss, because this time I'm not going to get the moss down, but I really need it for another purpose, because all the little cuts I made in order to grow new roots at this pot must be covered as quickly as possible in moss. So that's why I'm preparing little pieces now, just getting most of the soil out. So because I ginned the whole part of the trunk, all of the roots died here, and I will not have any root growth as on dead roots, of course. So the little cuts I made are here, Maybe I should have made them a little later to be sure that they are well over the just above the lip of the pot. But so what I'm going to do now is cover these parts of the cuts with a little bit of moss to be sure that they stay wet at all time. Of course the moss will climb up the tree, which is not a perfect situation, but this one is nice. Maybe add a little soil first. Like so. And then the moss. And another one here. Okay, so now just a few plucks of moss just to make it look natural, nice. So of course the moss does not look natural now, but this is a matter of days, and it will be alright. So not in the center, just a little off center, and give it a little movement. And now a top layer of pure lava. It's okay if you cover the moss. Because it's going to grow and stick right through it in the coming weeks. But it's better to cover the moss up a little so that you are sure that it stays nice wet. And if it stays wet, it's going to grow much better. And the effect will be much more natural. So that's for the mossing. Now let's give the tree a good watering. Make sure that the whole trunk is nice wet, so that it is easier to apply the lime sulfur. So I'm going to water him 3 or 4 times to be sure that all this wood is very wet. So now I'm going to apply lime sulfur on the rest of the trunk. Which looks yellow. And as you see, this is the part we did in the beginning of this video, and it's already white, so it's very fast. So this is all the work that has to be done to this tree today. Buds are starting to swell, so that's very nice. In the future, some branches may come off, like, for example, this one, which can be replaced by this one. So that's something you can do when your branches are starting to fill in and become healthier and carry more foliage. But It is always good to have as much branches on your tree as possible, because they will all help your tree to grow, to develop the roots, because they will act as little solar panels. So the tree is mossed, the trunk and all the gins and sharis are now nice and white. Maybe a little too white, it will go away in the coming days. You see at this point this is even a little yellow. Some people add some black ink to it, which is very nice, very natural. Some burn the old wood, which is good also. Some things come loose, so you better peel them off instead of cutting them off, so you have a more natural texture. So to end this video, I'll give you a 360 of the tree. I think the pot did turn out quite okay. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.